I sat across from my family at Charleston's most expensive restaurant, listening to them mock my little computer hobby while they worshipped a CEO they'd never met. My brother called this CEO a visionary. My father called them a genius. My mother said she'd give anything to meet them. There was just one problem. That CEO was me. And tonight, I was going to watch them realize that the person they'd spent 10 years calling a failure was the same person they'd spent 8 months desperately trying to reach. They thought they were celebrating my brother's engagement. They had no idea they were walking into their own execution. My name is Maya Sterling, and this is the story of how I destroyed my family with nothing but the truth. The call came at 3:47 a.m. on a Tuesday. I was still awake naturally. Sleep and I had developed an understanding over the past 3 years. I would chase it, and it would remain just out of reach, like a cat that knows it's wanted. My apartment in Charleston's historic district was dark except for the blue glow of 6 monitors arranged in a semicircle around my desk. The servers hummed their familiar lullaby, a sound most people would find annoying, but to me, it was white noise, the mechanical heartbeat of something I'd built from nothing. I was 3,000 lines deep into debugging a latency issue in our Singapore hub when my phone vibrated against the desk. The screen lit up with a photo I'd taken 5 years ago. Blake, my older brother, grinning at a charity golf tournament. Back when I still attended family events. Back when I still hoped. I almost didn't answer. My time was currently billed at $850 an hour when I consulted, though I rarely did anymore. But family calls at 3:47 a.m. usually meant someone was dead or dying, and despite everything, I wasn't quite ready for either. "Hello, Blake." "Maya, you're awake!" His voice was too loud, too cheerful, the forced brightness of someone about to ask for something. "I thought I'd get your voicemail." "I'm working." I saved my code, just in case. Conversations with Blake had a way of requiring my full attention. Right, your thing." He paused, and I could hear ice clinking in a glass. Whiskey, probably. Blake drank whiskey when he needed courage. "Listen, I'm calling about Friday." "What's Friday?" "The dinner. Mom sent you the calendar invite like 2 weeks ago." His tone shifted from cheerful to annoyed in the space of a breath. "The engagement dinner? At Maison Laurent? Please tell me you remember." I pulled up my calendar on the third monitor. There it was, buried under 3 board meetings and a call with our Tokyo partners. Harrison family dinner, Blake and Alexandra. I'd marked it as tentative, which in my world meant probably not happening. "I saw it," I said carefully. "And you're coming." It wasn't a question. I looked at the screen in front of me. The Singapore hub was processing 47,000 shipping containers in real time, routing cargo around a storm system in the South China Sea. Each container represented someone's business, someone's livelihood. This mattered. Dinner with my family historically did not. "Blake, I'm in the middle of something important." "More important than your own brother's engagement?" His voice rose. "Come on, Maya. It's one dinner. 3 hours tops. You can pretend to be a normal person for 3 hours, can't you?" The words stung, but I'd learned to expect them. In Blake's world, I was an outlier, a data point that didn't fit the curve. Successful people went to offices, wore suits, had visible careers. I did none of those things, therefore I couldn't possibly be successful. "Who's the fiancé?" I asked, changing the subject. "Alexandra Bennett. I've mentioned her before." He hadn't, but I let it slide. "What does she do?" "She's a partner at Redwood Crest Capital." Pride inflated his voice. "Major player in the VC world. She's brilliant, actually. You'd probably like her if you ever left your apartment." Redwood Crest. The name triggered something in my memory. I pulled up my email and searched. 15 messages from Alexandra Bennett over the past 8 months, each one requesting a meeting with MS CEO of Kestrel Grid, each one slightly more desperate than the last. The irony was so perfect it almost made me laugh. "Sure," I heard myself say. "I'll be there." "Really?" Blake sounded genuinely surprised. "That's great. That's really great, Maya. Look, I know we haven't been close lately, but this means a lot. To me and to Mom and Dad. What time? 7. Don't be late. And Maya? He paused. Wear something nice, okay? Like, actually nice. This place has a dress code. The line went dead before I could respond. I sat there for a long moment, staring at Alexandra Bennett's most recent email. Subject line, final attempt, please reconsider meeting. Sent 4 days ago. My assistant Jordan had flagged it. This one's persistent. Background check came back clean. Legit VC with good reputation. Your call. I'd never responded. I never did. But now Blake was marrying her, which meant she'd spent 8 months trying to find me while dating my brother. The question was whether she knew Blake was my brother, or if this was just the universe's idea of a joke. I opened a new message to Jordan. Change of plans. I'm attending a family dinner Friday night. I need you to pull everything we have on Alexandra Bennett, Redwood Crest Capital, and any connection to Harrison Financial Group. The response came back in under a minute. On it. Should I be worried? I typed, probably, and hit send. Then I went back to my code. Singapore wasn't going to debug itself, and I had 3 days to decide whether I was walking into a family dinner or a trap. The thing about building a $400 million company in secret is that it requires constant vigilance. Not the sexy Jason Bourne kind of vigilance, the tedious, paranoid, check every document kind that makes you trust no one and question everything. I learned this the hard way. 3 years ago, I was still Maya Harrison, still living in the condo my father had generously offered to subsidize. The condo came with strings, of course. Everything with David Harrison came with strings. He wanted monthly financial reports. He wanted to approve my lease renewals. He wanted, essentially, to treat his 30-year-old daughter like a trust fund that needed managing. The final straw came on a Wednesday in August. I'd just signed my first major client, a mid-sized shipping company that paid $180,000 for a year of predictive analytics. It was validation. Proof that my hobby was actually a business. I was so excited I did something I almost never did. I decided to share it with my family. I drove to Charlotte, showed up at their house unannounced, found my father in his study reviewing client portfolios. "Dad," I'd said, standing in the doorway like a kid with a report card, "I need to tell you something." He'd looked up from his reading glasses, irritated at the interruption. "What is it, Maya? I'm busy." I closed a deal, a big one, $180,000. His expression shifted from irritation to interest. "A deal? What kind of deal?" I explained the contract, the technology, the potential for growth. With each sentence, I watched his eyes calculate, his mind already spending money I hadn't earned yet. When I finished, he leaned back in his leather chair and smiled. It wasn't a proud father's smile. It was a financial advisor's smile. "That's wonderful, sweetheart. This is exactly the kind of opportunity I can help you with." He pulled out a legal pad, started writing. "First, we'll set up a proper corporate structure. You'll need liability protection. I can manage that through Harrison Financial. Family rate, of course. Then we'll talk about scaling. With proper investment, you could—" "Dad, I don't need investment. I just wanted to—" "Maya." His voice hardened. "You're smart with computers, but business? That's my world. You bring me in as a managing partner, say 30%, and I'll turn this into something real." 30%? "For my expertise, my network, my credibility." He stood up, walked around the desk. "Sweetheart, no one's going to take you seriously. A woman in her 30s working from home? They'll think you're selling Tupperware. But Harrison Financial backing you? That opens doors." I felt something cold settle in my stomach. "This is my company, Dad." "And it can stay your company. I'm just talking about strategic partnership. Family helping family." He put his hand on my shoulder, squeezed. "Unless you want to stay small. Is that what you want? To stay small?" I left without answering. 2 weeks later, I hired a lawyer in Atlanta, someone with no connection to Charlotte, no connection to my family. His name was Daniel Fisher, and his specialty was protecting founders from predatory investors. "Your father wants 30% for expertise?" Daniel had laughed over the phone. "Let me guess. No capital investment, no sweat equity, just vibes? He thinks I need his name to succeed. Do you? No. Then don't give it to him. Daniel paused. But Maya, if you're serious about building something, you need to understand something. Money makes people crazy. Family money makes them insane. If your father thinks you're sitting on a gold mine, he won't stop at asking nicely. What should I do? Disappear. So I did. I moved out of the subsidized condo, telling my parents I wanted independence. And then I rented a studio apartment in Charleston, far enough from Charlotte to have breathing room, close enough to avoid suspicion. I sold the Audi my father had co-signed and bought a used Honda with a dent in the rear bumper. I stopped posting on social media, stopped attending family events except when absolutely mandatory, stopped talking about my work beyond vague references to freelance coding. And I changed my name. Not officially, not at first, but in every business document, every contract, every corporate filing, I was Maya Sterling, my mother's maiden name. A name that carried no expectations, no obligations, no 30% managing partnerships. The company I'd started in secret, the one I'd almost handed my father a piece of, was now Kestrel Grid. The CEO was listed simply as MS in all public documents, anonymous, invisible, free. In 2 years, we'd grown from 1 client to 40, from $180,000 in revenue to $40 million in annual contracts. From a hobby to a company that logistics giants watched nervously, and my family had no idea. They thought I was failing. They thought I was lost. They thought I was the cautionary tale you tell at country club dinners. Our daughter Maya, still trying to figure things out. We worry about her. Let them worry. Let them whisper. Let them pity me. Because the woman they pitied had just been valued at $400 million by 3 different investment banks. The woman they pitied employed 47 people, most of whom made more than Blake did. The woman they pitied was currently being hunted by one of the most prestigious venture capital firms on the East Coast. And on Friday night, that woman was going to sit at a table and watch her family worship the ghost of the person they'd spent a decade trying to kill. Blake Harrison was panicking. He stood in his father's study in Charlotte, tie loosened, whiskey in hand, staring at a spreadsheet that told him everything he didn't want to know. Harrison Financial Group was dying, not quickly, not dramatically, but slowly, inevitably, like a tree rotting from the inside. The Henderson account is pulling out, Blake said, pointing at the screen. That's $4 million in assets under management. Gone. David Harrison, seated behind his mahogany desk, swirled his own whiskey and pretended not to be worried. Henderson's an idiot. Always has been. We're better off without him. Dad, he's the 3rd major client we've lost this quarter. Blake's voice rose. They're all saying the same thing. We don't have the expertise in emerging markets. They want tech exposure. They want innovation. They want the next shiny toy, David interrupted. And in 6 months, they'll realize they've been sold fool's gold and come crawling back. What if they don't? David didn't answer. Blake drained his whiskey, poured another. He was 34 years old and facing the reality that the family business he'd been groomed to inherit was worth less than the leather furniture in this office. His engagement to Alexandra was supposed to fix this. Alex wasn't just smart, she was connected. Redwood Crest managed over $2 billion in assets. They had stakes in half the tech unicorns in Silicon Valley. An alliance with them could save Harrison Financial, could prove to the Hendersons of the world that the Harrisons were still relevant. But Alex was pulling away. He could feel it. She'd stopped laughing at his jokes, stopped asking about his day. Last week, she'd skipped their usual Thursday dinner, claiming she had work. Work, like he didn't. He needed something big, something that would remind her why she'd said yes to his proposal in the first place. What about Kestrel Grid? Blake asked. David looked up. What about it? Everyone in the industry is talking about them. That CEO, MS, whoever they are, they're supposed to be the next big thing in logistics AI. Blake pulled up an article on his phone. If we could get a meeting, position ourselves as advisors. Blake, we've been trying to reach them for 6 months. David's voice was flat. They don't take meetings. They don't respond to emails. They're ghosts. But what if we had an in? Blake leaned forward. What if we had someone on the inside? We don't. What about Maya? The name hung in the air like smoke. David frowned. Your sister? What about her? She lives in Charleston. She's always on her computer. What if she works for them? Blake was speaking faster now, the whiskey and desperation mixing into something that felt like hope. Or knows someone who does. Charleston's not that big. Tech people know each other. David considered this. Maya can barely manage her own life. You think she's connected to a $400 million company? I don't know, but it's worth asking, right? Blake paced. She's coming to the engagement dinner. We could feel her out, see if she knows anything. And if she doesn't? Blake thought about this, about Maya in her thrift store clothes and her beat-up Honda, about the family disappointment who'd somehow managed to survive 3 years without asking for money. She's on computers all day, Blake said slowly. She has to have files, data, maybe access to clients, networks, something we could— Careful, David warned, but his eyes were calculating. What exactly are you suggesting? I'm suggesting that Maya is family, and family helps family. Blake pulled a document from his briefcase. I had our lawyer draft this. It's a family trust addendum, standard estate planning stuff, but there's a clause about digital assets. David took the document, started reading. His eyebrows rose. This gives us access to any intellectual property stored on devices at her residence. For estate protection purposes, Blake said quickly. Totally legal. She signs it, we can check her systems, see if there's anything useful. If she's really just doing freelance coding for dentist offices, no harm done. But if she's got something bigger, we take it to market. David smiled for the first time all evening. Position ourselves as having discovered it. Broker the connection to MS. Exactly. And Maya? Blake shrugged. Maya gets to feel useful for once. Everyone wins. David studied his son. You really think she's that naive? That she'll just sign away her rights? Dad, she's Maya. She still thinks family means something. Blake finished his whiskey. And besides, she owes us. We put up with her weirdness for 30 years. Time for some return on investment. David picked up his phone, started typing. I'll have Victoria call her, mother to daughter. Make it sound like we're worried, like we want to protect her assets. Good. Blake headed for the door, then paused. And Dad, don't mention this to Alex. Not yet. I want to surprise her. With what? With proof that I can deliver what I promised. Access to the biggest tech story of the year. Blake smiled. She'll remember why she said yes. After Blake left, David sat alone in his study reading the document again. It was elegant, really, hidden in plain sight. Page 17, subsection C, buried in language about fiduciary responsibility and familial asset preservation. Maya would never see it coming. She was too trusting, too desperate for their approval. She'd sign anything if they framed it as family business. And if she really did have something valuable on her computers, if she really did have a connection to Kestrel Grid, well, finders keepers. David poured himself another whiskey and toasted the empty room. To family, he said and drank. 3,000 miles away, in a glass-walled office overlooking San Francisco Bay, Alexandra Bennett was having a crisis of faith. The crisis was represented by a whiteboard covered in red marker, strings of data that went nowhere, and 8 months of failed attempts to find a ghost. MS stared back at her from a dozen different articles, always described, never shown. The invisible architect, the anonymous genius, the CEO who doesn't exist. Except they did exist. They had to. You don't build a $400 million company from nothing without existing. Alex stood in front of the whiteboard, dry erase marker in hand, adding another data point to her web of failure. Confirmed facts. CEO uses initials MS Kestrel Grid incorporated 3 years ago. Charleston. SC female. 1 leaked email signature. Best MS with feminine pronouns in reply. Age estimate 28 to 35. Technical expertise plus startup timeline. Never appears in public. One TechCrunch. Disrupt appearance. Masked. Voice modulated. Mentioned Charleston Jasmine in a podcast. Archived since deleted. Failed attempts. 47 emails to info@kestrelgrid.com. Generic responses from Jordan Webb, executive assistant. 23 phone calls. Screened, redirected, blocked. 6 LinkedIn messages to Kestrel Grid employees. No responses. 3 trips to Charleston. Attended tech meetups, found nothing. 2 private investigators. Both came back empty. Alex's partner at Redwood Crest, Michael Torres, had told her to give up. There are other companies, Bennett, other deals. Stop obsessing. But she couldn't, because finding MS wasn't just about the deal. It was about proving she belonged in a room full of men who still called her Mike's hire behind her back. It was about showing her father, who'd laughed when she said she wanted to go into venture capital, that she could spot talent better than anyone. And maybe, if she was honest with herself, it was about the challenge, the intellectual puzzle of it. Who hides this successfully? And why? Her phone buzzed. Blake. She'd been dating him for 8 months. The same 8 months she'd been hunting MS. The timing wasn't coincidental. Blake had approached her at a fintech mixer in Atlanta, all charm and confidence, mentioning that his family's firm had connections in the Charleston business community. She'd done her due diligence. Harrison Financial Group was legitimate, if unimpressive. Boutique firm, decent reputation, nothing spectacular. Blake himself was fine. Handsome, well-educated, good on paper. But there was something performative about him, like he was always auditioning for a role in a movie about successful people. The proposal had surprised her. They'd been dating for 6 months, long enough to be serious, not long enough to be sure. But Blake had done it at the country club in front of his parents, with a ring that cost more than he probably earned in 3 months. She'd said yes because saying no would have required an explanation she wasn't ready to give. I don't actually love you. I'm with you because you promised access to something I want more than I want you. Now she was engaged to a man she respected but didn't love, planning a wedding she didn't want, and no closer to finding MS than she'd been 8 months ago. The phone buzzed again. She ignored it. Alex turned back to her whiteboard and added a new line. She'd been approaching this wrong. Everyone assumed MS was hiding for competitive advantage, for mystique, for security. But what if it was simpler than that? What if MS was hiding from someone? Alex pulled up Kestrel Grid's corporate filings again, something she'd done 100 times. The registered agent was listed as M. Sterling, Charleston, SC, with a P.O. box address. M. Sterling. M.S. She'd tried to track down M. Sterling, but it was like chasing smoke. No social media presence. No property records under that name. No vehicle registrations. But what if? Alex opened a new tab, searched. Sterling plus Charleston plus technology. Nothing useful. Sterling plus South Carolina plus female entrepreneur. Still nothing. M. Sterling plus Maya. She stopped. Why did she type Maya? That wasn't... Her phone rang. This time she answered. Hey, babe. Blake's voice was too cheerful. Quick question. Is your flight Friday still at 5? What? For the engagement dinner. Friday night. Charleston. He paused. You didn't forget, did you? Alex looked at her calendar. She had forgotten. Right. No. I'm coming. Great. And hey, I'm really excited for you to meet my sister. I think you two will hit it off. Your sister? Maya. I told you about her, remember? She's the one who lives in Charleston, does the computer stuff. Alex's hand froze over her keyboard. Computer stuff? Yeah, freelance coding or something. She's kind of a hermit, but she's family, so... Blake laughed. Anyway, she's coming to dinner. Finally. Should be interesting. Blake, Alex said slowly. Your sister. She lives in Charleston and works in tech? If you can call it that. She's more of a hobbyist, really. But yeah, Charleston. Why? No reason. Alex's mind was racing. I'll see you Friday. She hung up. Maya Harrison. Charleston. Technology. Alex pulled up LinkedIn, searched Maya Harrison plus Charleston. Nothing. Maya Harrison plus programmer. Nothing. Maya Harrison plus Sterling. Her breath caught. There was a Reddit thread from 2 years ago, archived and mostly deleted. But Google's cache had preserved one comment. Anyone know MS's real identity? I heard it's Maya S. something, but the rest of the name got deleted. The comment had been removed, the user account deleted, but it existed. Alex sat back in her chair, her heart pounding. Blake's sister, Maya, Charleston, M. Sterling, M.S. No, she said out loud. That's insane. But what if it wasn't? She opened a new search. Sterling Holdings LLC, the parent company of Kestrel Grid. Registered agent, M. Sterling Charleston. Address, a P.O. box in the historic district. Alex plugged the zip code into Google Maps, started looking at apartment buildings in the area. 3 buildings matched the approximate location. One of them was a converted warehouse with studio apartments. She pulled up the property management website, found the floor plans. Studio apartments. $1,200 per month. Exactly the kind of place a woman pretending not to have money would live. Alex opened her messages, typed to her assistant. I need property records for every M. Sterling in Charleston County, South Carolina, and pull everything you can find on Maya Harrison, childhood, education, employment history, everything. The response came back in minutes. Her assistant was efficient. One result matched. Maya Harrison legally changed name to Maya Sterling 2 years ago. Reason, personal preference. Current address, redacted, privacy laws, but associated with a P.O. box matching Kestrel Grid's corporate filings. Alex stared at her screen. 8 months. 8 months of searching, and the woman she was looking for was her fiancé's sister. The woman Blake called a failure. The woman he'd described as still figuring things out. Maya Harrison. Maya Sterling. M.S. Oh, my God, Alex whispered. She looked at her engagement ring, a 3-carat diamond that suddenly felt like handcuffs. She'd said yes to Blake because he promised access to Charleston's business community, because he'd said his family could help her find MS. He'd been right. He just didn't know it. And now she had a choice. Tell Blake what she'd discovered, or go to dinner on Friday and meet Maya Harrison herself. Meet the woman who'd been invisible for 8 months. Meet the CEO who didn't want to be found. Meet the woman who might be smarter than everyone else combined. Alex looked at her whiteboard, at 8 months of dead ends and false leads. Then she looked at her calendar. Friday night. Maison Laurent. Charleston. She smiled. Finally, she said to the empty office. Finally. Thursday night, I couldn't sleep. This was different from my usual insomnia. This was anxiety, pure and simple. The kind that sits on your chest like a cat and kneads your sternum with its claws. Jordan had sent over the research I'd requested. It sat on my secondary monitor, a digital dossier that told me everything I needed to know and nothing I wanted to face. Alexandra Bennett, profile summary. Age 34, education, Stanford, B.A. Economics, Harvard Business School, MBA. Current position, partner, Redwood Crest. Capital specialization, tech infrastructure, logistics, supply chain innovation, net worth, estimated $40 to $60 million. Relationship status, engaged to Blake Harrison, 8 months. Notable details, first female partner at Redwood Crest, promoted 18 months ago, known for aggressive diligence, thorough background checks, has been actively seeking meeting with Kestrel Grid CEO for 8+ months, 47 documented contact attempts via email, phone, LinkedIn. No apparent connection to Harrison family prior to relationship with Blake. Assessment, professional threat level high, personal threat level unknown. I sat at my desk staring at the profile photo Jordan had pulled from a TechCrunch conference. Alexandra Bennett was beautiful in a severe, intelligent way. Dark hair pulled back, sharp eyes that looked like they could calculate your net worth and your insecurities in the same glance. She'd been hunting me for 8 months, and tomorrow night I was going to let her find me. The smart move would be to cancel. Food poisoning, car trouble. The truth, I'm the person you're looking for, and I'm not ready to be found. But I was tired of hiding. Not tired enough to go public, not yet, but tired enough to sit in a room with someone who'd dedicated 8 months to finding me and see if she was smart enough to figure it out. My phone rang. Jordan, working late as usual. "Tell me you're not actually going to this dinner," they said without preamble. "I'm going! Maya, this is objectively a terrible idea." Jordan's voice was tight with worry. We'd worked together for 2 years, and in that time, they'd become more than an assistant. They were my firewall against the world. "Bennett is smart. If she's been hunting you this long, she's going to notice something. And your family, my family thinks I fix computers for dentists. Your family tried to brute force our firewall 4 times last month." Jordan pulled up the logs, sent them to my screen. "Look at this. Harrison Financial Group, 4 different IP addresses, all trying to access our employee portal. They're not subtle, Maya. They're desperate." I looked at the logs. December 3rd, December 10th, December 15th, December 20th. Each attempt slightly more sophisticated than the last, like someone watching YouTube tutorials on hacking between tries. "They think I work here," I said quietly, "which means they think you have access to something valuable." Jordan paused. "What if they try something tomorrow? What if this dinner is a setup?" "Then I'll handle it." "How? By telling them the truth?" I didn't answer. "Maya," Jordan's voice softened, "I know you want them to see you. I know you want them to realize they were wrong. But there are better ways to do this. Safer ways. You don't owe them a revelation. You don't owe them anything." "I know." "Then why are you going?" I looked at the servers humming in the corner of my apartment, at the monitors showing real-time data from 47 clients across 6 continents, at the business I'd built while my family thought I was failing. "Because I'm tired of being invisible," I said. "Even if it's strategic, even if it protects me, I'm tired." Jordan was quiet for a long moment. "Okay, but promise me something." "What?" "If things go sideways, if they try to push you into something, you call me immediately. I don't care if you're in the middle of dinner. I don't care if it's awkward. You call." "I promise." "And Maya, don't sign anything. I don't care what they say it is. Don't sign anything without our lawyers reviewing it." "I won't." After we hung up, I sat in the dark, listening to the servers hum. Tomorrow night, I would put on my thrift store blazer and drive my dented Honda to the most expensive restaurant in Charleston. I would sit across from my family and smile while they explained how disappointed they were in my choices. And I would watch Alexandra Bennett, who had spent 8 months trying to find MS, sit inches away from the person she was looking for. The question was, would she be smart enough to see me? I walked to my closet, pushed past the utilitarian clothes I wore every day. In the back, still in its garment bag, was the Armani suit I'd bought in Milan after closing my first 8-figure deal. Black wool, tailored perfectly, expensive enough to make my family's jaws drop. I could wear it tomorrow, show up and shatter their reality in one move. But that would be too easy. I pushed the Armani aside and pulled out the charcoal blazer I'd bought from a consignment shop 3 years ago. It was good quality, professional, unremarkable. The kind of thing a woman who was still figuring things out would wear. Perfect. I laid it on my bed, along with simple black pants and a white blouse. The costume of invisibility, the armor of underestimation. Tomorrow night, my family would see exactly what they expected to see. A daughter who couldn't quite get her life together, a sister who needed saving, a woman whose little hobby was nothing more than a way to pass time. They would have no idea they were sitting across from the person they'd been trying to steal from. They would have no idea that the hobbyist was the CEO. And when the truth finally came out, and it would eventually, they would have no one to blame but themselves. I set my alarm for 6 a.m. I had code to write, a Singapore merger to finalize, and a family dinner to prepare for. The servers hummed. The city slept. And I sat in the dark, the CEO no one knew, preparing to let my family destroy themselves. Tomorrow night would change everything. I was ready. The valet looked at my Honda the way a sommelier might look at box wine. "Will you be dining with us this evening, ma'am?" His tone suggested he hoped the answer was no. "Harrison party. Private dining room. I handed him the keys, watched his expression shift from dismissal to confusion. The Harrison family was Charleston royalty, at least in their own minds. Someone from that family should not be driving a car with a dented bumper and a check engine light that had been on for 3 months. Of course, ma'am. Enjoy your evening. Maison Laurent occupied a converted mansion in the historic district, all white columns and gas lamps, the kind of place that charged $60 for an appetizer and called it market price. The air smelled of old money and truffle oil, that peculiar combination of privilege and fungus. Inside, the maitre d' directed me to the back with a subtle gesture, as if pointing out the restrooms to someone who might not know where to find them. The private dining rooms were reserved for people who didn't want to be seen eating with the masses, or in my family's case, people who wanted to perform their importance for a smaller, more controlled audience. The hallway was lined with gilt-framed mirrors. I caught my reflection in each one. A woman in a 3-year-old blazer, minimal makeup, hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. I looked exactly like what my family expected. Someone trying but not quite succeeding. Someone who'd borrowed the blazer from a more successful friend. Perfect. I heard them before I saw them. Blake's laugh, too loud, the kind of laugh that demanded attention. My mother's voice, high and bright, asking someone about their travels. And underneath it all, my father's rumble, holding court, explaining something with the confidence of a man who'd never been truly challenged. I paused at the doorway, let myself have one moment of hesitation. Jordan's words echoed. You don't owe them anything. But I wasn't here because I owed them. I was here because I needed to see it, needed to watch them worship the idea of me while insulting the reality of me, needed to know, with absolute certainty, that they would never see me unless I forced them to. I pushed open the door. The private dining room was excessive in that quiet, wealthy way. Crystal chandelier, silk wallpaper in cream and gold. A table that could seat 12 but held only 5 place settings because even the furniture needed to know there was room for more important people. My father sat at the head of the table, of course. David Harrison, 68 years old, with silver hair he dyed to look more silver, and a suit that cost more than my monthly rent. He was holding a wine glass by the stem, swirling it the way he'd learned from YouTube videos, trying to look like someone who understood wine instead of someone who just bought expensive labels. My mother, Victoria, sat to his right. She'd aged beautifully, the way women do when they can afford the right doctors and the right lighting. Her dress was Chanel. I recognized it from the spring collection she'd sent me photos of, asking if I thought it was too young for her. She'd bought it anyway. Blake stood when I entered, and for a half second I saw something genuine in his face. Surprise, maybe even relief. He looked nervous, I realized, sweaty. His tie was loosened, and there was a tightness around his eyes that suggested he'd been drinking before I arrived. Maya, you made it! He crossed the room, pulled me into a hug that felt more like a performance than affection. I was worried you'd bail. I said I'd come. You say a lot of things. He released me, and I caught the smell of whiskey on his breath. Not drunk, but working on it. Come on, I want you to meet Alex. And there she was. Alexandra Bennett sat at my father's left, and she was exactly what her photos had suggested, and nothing like I'd expected. The photos showed competence, intelligence, the professional polish of someone who'd earned their seat. But in person, there was something else. A weariness around her eyes, a tightness in her smile. She stood when I approached, extended her hand. Her grip was firm, professional, the handshake of someone who'd learned to match strength without trying to dominate. Maya, finally. Her voice was warmer than I'd expected. Blake has told me so much about you. Nothing good, I hope. I tried for lightness and heard it land flat. Alex smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. He said you work in tech. That's actually my field. What's your specialty? Before I could answer, my father's voice cut through. Don't let her bore you with the details, Alex. Maya does some freelance coding, website maintenance, that sort of thing. Nothing as sophisticated as what you deal with. I felt the familiar sting, the casual dismissal, but I'd learned to metabolize it, to let it fuel me instead of hurt me. It's a bit more complex than that, I said carefully. But yes, I work in tech. She's being modest. Blake guided me to the empty seat between my mother and the wall, the worst seat at the table, the one where you're trapped and visible to everyone. Maya's been doing this computer thing for years. She's very persistent. The word landed wrong. Persistent. Like I was a child refusing to give up on a hobby I'd eventually outgrow. My mother reached over, patted my hand. Her fingers were cold, heavy with rings. "We're just happy you're here, darling. You look comfortable." Comfortable. The word my mother used when she meant disappointing, but I'm too polite to say it. I sat down, and the waiter materialized with menus. The kind of menus with no prices, because if you needed to ask, you couldn't afford it. I'd been to restaurants like this for business dinners, signing deals worth millions while eating $200 steaks. But my family didn't know that. They saw me squinting at the French descriptions and assumed I was overwhelmed. "The duck is excellent," my father said, not looking at me. "Though you might prefer something simpler. The chicken is very good." Translation: order the cheapest thing so I don't have to feel bad about spending money on you. "I'll have the duck," I said. Alex was watching me. I could feel it, the weight of her attention. When I glanced up, she was looking at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Curiosity? Recognition? Or just the polite interest of someone forced to make conversation with her fiancé's weird sister? "So, Alex," I said, deciding to poke the bear, "Blake mentioned you're in venture capital. That must be interesting work." "It has its moments." She took a sip of wine. "Currently, I'm focused on logistics technology, supply chain optimization, predictive analytics, that sort of thing." "Really?" I kept my voice neutral. "That's a growing field." "It is. There are some fascinating companies doing innovative work." She paused, and I swear I saw something flicker in her eyes. "Are you familiar with any players in that space?" "I might have heard of a few." "Have you heard of Kestrel Grid?" The table went quiet, not because anyone else cared, but because Blake suddenly perked up like a dog hearing a treat bag open. "Kestrel Grid?" Blake nearly shouted. "That's the company I was telling you about, babe. The one with the genius CEO. "MS," Alex said, still looking at me. "Yes, I'm familiar. Dad and I have been trying to set up a meeting with them for months," Blake continued, oblivious to the tension. "Right, Dad?" My father nodded, jumping into the conversation like it was a life raft. "Absolutely. Brilliant operation. The CEO, this MS character. They're revolutionizing logistics. If Harrison Financial could partner with them, consult on their market strategy." He trailed off, the fantasy playing behind his eyes. "It would be transformative." I felt my jaw tighten. They were talking about me, to me, about how brilliant I was, how transformative my company was, while simultaneously assuming I was too stupid to understand what they were discussing. "What do you know about MS?" Alex asked, and I realized she was still looking at me, not at Blake or my father. Just me. "Not much," I lied. "I've read some articles. The company is based in Charleston, you know." Alex's voice was casual, but her eyes were sharp. "Given that you work in tech here, I thought you might have run into them. Network events, conferences, that sort of thing. Charleston's bigger than people think. But the tech community is small, isn't it?" She leaned forward slightly. "People talk, especially about a company as successful as Kestrel Grid. You've never heard rumors about who MS really is?" I met her eyes. She was testing me. She suspected something, maybe not the full truth, but something. "I mind my own business," I said. Blake laughed, breaking the moment. "That's Maya, head down, typing away. She wouldn't know a networking event if it hit her in the face." He picked up his wine glass, gestured broadly. "Speaking of Kestrel Grid, I actually posted about them today. Did you see it, Alex?" Blake pulled out his phone, fingers clumsy with eagerness. "Here, let me show you. I've been following their growth for months. It's incredible what MS has built." He turned the screen toward Alex, but I could see it too. His LinkedIn post, the one I'd read last night in my dark apartment, now illuminated under crystal chandelier light, truly inspired by the visionary leadership at Kestrel Grid. In an industry cluttered with noise, MS has created something genuinely transformative. This is the kind of forward-thinking innovation that Harrison Financial Group seeks to partner with. Leadership, vision, execution, #tech, leadership, #innovation, #Kestrel Grid. Blake had tagged Alex, my father, and at least 10 other people, including several of his clients. The post had 43 likes and 12 comments, all from people eager to appear knowledgeable about something they'd probably Googled 5 minutes before commenting. "You see, babe?" Blake set the phone down, looked at Alex with the pride of a child showing off a crayon drawing. "This is the caliber of company we need to be associated with. When Harrison Financial announces a partnership with Kestrel Grid, it's going to change everything. Market perception, client confidence, competitive positioning." "Blake," Alex's voice was measured. "Careful. You can't announce a partnership that doesn't exist." "Not yet," my father interjected smoothly. "But we're in discussions. Very preliminary, of course, but promising." I watched Alex's face. She knew they were lying. I could see it in the way her jaw tightened, the way she set down her wine glass with deliberate care. "What kind of discussions?" Alex asked. Blake and my father exchanged a look. My father nodded, some silent permission passing between them. "We have a connection," Blake said, lowering his voice as if we weren't in a private room. "Someone on the inside. Can't say much yet, but let's just say we're closer than most people get." The irony was suffocating. They had a connection on the inside. They were looking at her. "That's impressive," Alex said, and I couldn't tell if she was being sincere or sarcastic. MS is famously difficult to reach. "Well, you know the Harrison charm," Blake grinned. "We have a way of opening doors." I felt something curl in my stomach, not quite nausea, but close. They were selling access to me, trading on a connection they didn't have to impress a woman Blake was using as a business asset. The appetizers arrived, oysters for my father and Blake, some kind of foam situation for my mother, burrata for Alex. I'd ordered the simplest thing on the menu, a salad, because I knew anything more would prompt commentary about how I should save my money. "So, Maya," my mother said, pivoting the conversation with the subtlety of a freight train. "Are you still in that little studio, the one near the port?" "Yes." "And you're managing okay? The rent isn't too steep?" Her voice dripped with concern that sounded like judgment. "I'm fine, Mom." "Because if you needed to move back home for a bit just to get your feet under you, we'd understand. Wouldn't we, David?" My father made a non-committal sound, his mouth full of oyster. Blake jumped in. "Actually, I wanted to talk to you about that, Maya." He exchanged another look with my father. "I might have an opportunity for you." Here it comes, I thought. "The firm is expanding," Blake continued. "We're looking for someone to handle our front desk, answer phones, schedule appointments, keep the office running smoothly. It's not glamorous, but it's steady. $40,000 a year, full benefits, and you'd be working with family." The table went quiet. Even the waiter, refilling water glasses, seemed to pause. $40,000 a year to answer phones for my brother. My junior developers made $120,000. My mid-level engineers made $180,000. I personally cleared more in a week than Blake was offering me for a year, and he thought he was being generous. "That's very kind of you," I said, my voice flat. "I know it's not much," Blake pressed on, apparently mistaking my shock for gratitude. "But it's a foot in the door. You could learn the business, see how real companies operate. And honestly, Maya, it would be good for you to be in a professional environment. Structure, routine. You've been drifting for so long." "Drifting," I repeated. "No offense," Blake added, which meant offense was absolutely intended. "But you have to admit, the freelance thing isn't really working out. You're 30 years old. You should have savings by now, a career path, something to show for all those hours on the computer." Alex was staring at her burrata like it was the most fascinating thing she'd ever seen. She hadn't touched it, hadn't looked up since Blake started talking. "Blake means well," Victoria said, reaching for my hand again. I pulled it away before she could touch me. "We all do. We just worry about you, darling. This whole independence thing. It's admirable, but at some point you have to be realistic. The world is expensive. You can't just tinker forever." I'm not tinkering. Then what would you call it? My father asked. He'd finished his oysters and was looking at me with genuine curiosity, like I was a specimen under glass. You don't have clients we can verify. You don't have a visible business. You live alone in a studio apartment and drive a car that should have been scrapped 3 years ago. What exactly are you doing, Maya? Building something. Blake laughed. Building what? An Instagram following? A Pinterest board? A company. The word dropped like a stone into water. Ripples of silence spread across the table. Then Blake laughed again, harder this time. A company. Right. Maya, do you even know what it takes to run a company? Legal structure, payroll, client acquisition, competitive analysis? Yes, I said quietly. I know. Knowing and doing are different things, my father said. Blake and I have been in business for 30 years. We understand how the market works, and from what we can see, you're not running a company. You're running away from reality. Alex's fork clinked against her plate. Everyone turned to look at her. Sorry, she said, not sounding sorry at all. The burrata is excellent. But when she looked up, she wasn't looking at Blake or my father. She was looking at me. And in her eyes, I saw something that made my breath catch. Doubt. Not doubt in me, doubt in them. The main courses arrived with theatrical flourish. My duck came with a sauce that probably had a French name I couldn't pronounce, not because I didn't know French, but because the server's accent was performative nonsense. Blake had ordered steak, bloody and expensive. My father had the same. My mother picked at sea bass she wouldn't finish. Alex had ordered vegetarian, the mushroom risotto, and was pushing it around her plate like someone who'd lost their appetite. Blake waited until everyone had their food before he made his move. Actually, Maya, since we're all here together. He reached under his chair, pulled out a leather portfolio I hadn't noticed before. There's something Dad and I wanted you to take a look at. My stomach dropped. Legal stuff, Blake continued, setting the portfolio on the table between us. Really boring estate planning things. Mom and Dad's attorney needed family signatures for some trust updates. Trust updates? I asked carefully. Standard procedure when there's a marriage, my father said. Blake's engagement means we need to restructure some asset protection documents. Your signature just confirms you're aware of the changes. Why would I need to be aware of changes to your estate? Because you're a beneficiary, Victoria said softly. Obviously, darling. Everything we have will be split between you and Blake eventually. The lawyer just needs confirmation that everyone understands the structure. I looked at the portfolio. It was expensive leather, embossed with a law firm's logo. Pritchard and Associates, estate planning specialists. Can I read it first? Blake laughed. It's 40 pages of legal jargon. You'll be here all night. Just sign the highlighted parts. We had the lawyer mark exactly where family members need to sign. Then I can read it quickly. I opened the portfolio. The first document was indeed estate planning, beneficiary designations, trust amendments, standard boilerplate, but it was long, dense. The kind of document designed to make you tired, to make you skim instead of read. I started scanning. Years of reviewing vendor contracts, partnership agreements, and acquisition terms had taught me to spot the important paragraphs, the ones buried under comfortable language. Page 4, standard stuff. Page 7, more boilerplate. Page 12, asset distribution formulas. Page 17. I stopped. Section 4.2, Mutual Digital Asset Protection Protocol. The language was careful, almost beautiful in its deception. In the interest of preserving familial intellectual property and ensuring business continuity across generational lines, all signing parties hereby grant limited access rights to digital assets stored on devices registered to their primary residence. This access is strictly for purposes of estate valuation, asset protection, and preservation of family business interests in the event of incapacity or death. By signing below, parties acknowledge that digital intellectual property, including but not limited to proprietary software, client databases, business methodologies, and technical specifications, may be reviewed by designated family representatives for the sole purpose of determining estate value and ensuring appropriate asset transfer protocols are in place. I read it 3 times, feeling ice spread through my chest. It was elegant, really. hidden on page 17 of a 40-page document surrounded by legitimate legal language about death and incapacity. Most people would skim right past it, their eyes glazing over at terms like business continuity and asset transfer protocols. But I wasn't most people. This wasn't estate planning. This was a data grab. If I signed this, I would be giving my family legal permission to access any intellectual property stored on devices at my residence, which meant my servers, my code, my client databases, everything that made Kestrel Grid valuable. They wouldn't have to hack my systems. I would have invited them in. I looked up. Blake was watching me with forced casualness, swirling his wine. My father was cutting his steak with exaggerated focus. Victoria was dabbing at her mouth with her napkin. Alex was staring at me, her fork frozen halfway to her mouth. "This section," I said, keeping my voice level, "about digital assets. Can you explain what that means?" Blake's casual expression cracked slightly. "What? Oh, that's just, passwords and stuff. If something happened to any of us, the family needs to be able to access accounts, pay bills, close email, that sort of thing. It says proprietary software and business methodologies. Legal overkill," my father interjected smoothly. "Lawyers always overwrite these things. It's meaningless, really. Just sign so we can enjoy our dinner." "If it's meaningless, why is it in the document?" The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. "Maya," Victoria's voice carried a note of warning. "Don't be difficult. Your brother and father have been working with the attorney for weeks to get this finalized. It's just a formality. Formalities matter in legal documents." "Oh my God." Blake threw down his napkin. "This is exactly what I'm talking about. This is why you can't keep a normal job. You overthink everything. You turn simple things into conspiracies." "I'm not." "Just sign the paper, Maya." My father's voice wasn't loud, but it carried authority. "Stop being paranoid. We're your family. We're not trying to steal your precious hobby website." I looked at Alex again. She'd set down her fork. She was reading the document upside down from across the table, her eyes moving quickly across the page. When she looked up, her expression had changed. The polite interest was gone. In its place was something sharper. Understanding. Maybe even recognition. "Actually," Alex said, her voice cutting through the tension. "May I see that?" "Alex, babe, you don't need to," Blake started. "I'd like to see it." She extended her hand. Not asking, demanding. I slid the portfolio across the table to her. Alex flipped to page 17, her finger tracing the section I'd been reading. The silence stretched. My father shifted in his seat. Blake refilled his wine glass, his hand trembling slightly. Alex read for 30 seconds. Then she looked up at my father, her expression unreadable. "This is a sweep clause," she said quietly. "A what?" Victoria asked. "A sweep clause. It's a term we use in venture capital." Alex's voice was steady, but there was steel underneath. "It grants broad access to intellectual property under the guise of estate planning. It's designed to look innocuous, but actually gives the signatory parties access to proprietary business assets." She turned to Blake. "Did you know this was in here?" The lawyer said it was standard." "Blake." Alex's voice could have cut glass. "Did you know this document would give you access to Maya's digital assets?" The question hung in the air. My father tried to recover. "Now, Alex, you're misinterpreting the legal language. This is simply about protecting—" "I read contracts for a living, David." Alex cut him off. "I know exactly what this is." She turned back to me and I saw it in her eyes, the calculation happening behind them, the pieces clicking into place. "Maya," Alex said slowly, "what exactly do you keep on your computers?" Before I could answer, Blake exploded. "Okay, fine." He stood up, his chair scraping against the floor. "Fine. Yes, we wanted access to her systems. Is that a crime?" "She's family." "Blake." My father tried to interject. "No, Dad, I'm tired of pretending." Blake pointed at me, his finger shaking. "She sits in that apartment all day, typing away on her computers. Multiple computers, plural. Do you know how many servers someone needs for freelance website maintenance? 0. but Maya has 6. You've been watching my apartment? I drove by a few times, Blake said defensively. Saw your windows, saw the glow from all those screens. It's weird, Maya. It's obsessive. And I started thinking, what if she's not just doing freelance coding? What if she stumbled into something bigger? Something you could steal, Alex said. Not steal. Leverage. Blake turned to her. Babe, you don't understand. Harrison Financial is bleeding clients. We needed something, an edge, a connection, and Maya's here in Charleston, home to the most talked about tech company in logistics, and she's on computers all day. The math wasn't hard. The math, I repeated, feeling something cold and final settle in my chest. You thought I work for Kestrel Grid. Well, do you? My father asked bluntly. Do you have access to their systems? Their client lists? Any connection to MS at all? And if I did? I asked quietly. If I did have that access, you were just going to steal it? Use your own daughter as a backdoor to a company you can't reach legitimately? It's not stealing if you're family, Blake shouted. Whatever you have, we have a right to it. We raised you. We paid for your education. We put up with your weirdness for 30 years. You owe us. Victoria started crying, actual tears streaming down her carefully made-up face. Why are you making this so difficult? We're just trying to help. Blake offered you a job. Your father wants to support your little projects. And this, she gestured at the document, this is just about making sure you're protected. Why can't you just trust us? I looked at my mother, at her genuine confusion. She really didn't understand. None of them did. They saw me as an asset to be managed, a resource to be extracted. The idea that I might have something worth protecting never crossed their minds because they couldn't imagine me having anything valuable. Let me make sure I understand, I said, my voice deadly calm. You invited me to dinner, not to celebrate Blake's engagement, but to trick me into signing a legal document that would give you access to my intellectual property. We're not tricking you, my father started. You hid it on page 17 of a 40-page document. You told me it was estate planning. You pressured me to sign without reading. What would you call that? Business, my father said, his mask finally slipping. I'd call it business, Maya. This is how the world works. You find leverage, you use it. Harrison Financial needs a win. You might have access to that win. Family helps family. By stealing from each other. By sharing resources. Blake slammed his hand on the table, rattling the silverware. God, Maya, do you hear yourself? You're so paranoid. So convinced everyone's out to get you. We're trying to help. You tried to hack my systems, I said quietly. The table went still. What? Blake's face went pale. 4 times last month. Different IP addresses, all registered to Harrison Financial Group. You've been trying to brute force your way into my servers. I pulled out my phone, opened the security logs Jordan had sent me. December 3rd, 11:47 p.m. December 10th, 2:23 a.m. December 15th, 4:15 p.m. December 20th, 9:33 p.m. Should I show you the IP addresses? My father's face was stone. I don't know what you're talking about. You hired someone to hack me. When that didn't work, you created this document. I picked up the portfolio, held it up. This wasn't about estate planning. This was about legally authorizing what you couldn't do illegally. Prove it, my father said coldly. I can. I have server logs, IP traces, attempted authentication records. I can prove that someone from Harrison Financial has been trying to break into my systems for a month. Blake and my father exchanged a look. Fear, maybe, or calculation. Even if that were true, my father said slowly, what are you hiding that's worth this much protection? If you're really just doing freelance coding, why do you care if we take a look? It was a trap. Answer the question, and I reveal I have something worth protecting. Don't answer, and I look guilty. I looked at Alex. She was watching the whole scene unfold with the intensity of someone watching a car crash they can't look away from. Her engagement ring caught the light, the diamond throwing tiny rainbows across the table. I'm not signing, I said finally. Maya, please. Victoria reached for me. I'm not signing, and I'm not giving you access to anything. If you want to know what I do, you could have asked. You could have asked any time in the last 3 years. But you didn't, because you didn't care. You only care now because you think I might have something you can use. That's not fair, Victoria whispered. Fair? I stood up, my napkin falling to the floor. You know what's not fair? Being invisible to your own family unless you're useful. Being mocked and dismissed and treated like a charity case, and then the second you think I might have value, suddenly I'm worth your attention. We've always paid attention to you, my father said, but his voice was hollow. No, you've always paid attention to your idea of me. The daughter who failed, the sister who couldn't keep up, the cautionary tale. I grabbed my purse. I need some air. I walked toward the door, but Blake's voice stopped me. Your phone. I turned. What? Your phone just lit up. Blake was staring at the table where I'd left my phone face down. The notification, I saw it. My stomach dropped. Blake, leave it alone, Alex said, her voice sharp. But Blake was already reaching for it. I lunged, but he was faster, grabbing my phone and turning it over. The screen was still lit. The notification was still visible. Jordan Webb, Singapore Partners confirmed. 7 a.m. call with CEO MS regarding merger. Do you want me to send the link? Blake stared at the screen, then at me, then at the screen again. CEO MS, he read aloud. You're messaging about CEO MS. Blake, give me my phone. Why do you have messages about the CEO of Kestrel Grid? His voice rose. Are you trying to apply for a job there? Is that what this is? My father stood up. Let me see that. No. I snatched the phone from Blake's hand. That's private. Private? Blake's face was red now, fury and confusion mixing into something ugly. You're messaging about MS and you think that's private? I've been trying to reach that CEO for 8 months. 8 months. And you're just casually texting about them? I'm not texting about them. Then what? Are you coordinating with them? Did you get a job there? Blake grabbed my shoulders, shook me slightly. Maya, if you're working for Kestrel Grid and you didn't tell us, if you've been holding out on this connection, let go of me. You're trying to sabotage me, aren't you? You heard me talking about the deal with Alex and you decided to go behind my back. Blake, let her go! Alex was on her feet now, pulling Blake away from me. She's undermining me, Blake shouted. She's my sister and she's trying to steal my deal. Your deal? I asked, my voice shaking with something that might have been anger or might have been something worse. You don't have a deal, Blake. You never did. You've been lying to Alex for months about having access to MS, and now you're angry because you think I actually do? Do you? The question hung in the air. Everyone was standing now, even Victoria. The private dining room felt smaller, the walls pressing in. Do you have access to MS? Blake demanded. Do you work for them? Just answer the goddamn question, Maya. I looked at each of them. My father calculating how to turn this to his advantage. My mother crying because the scene wasn't going according to her script. Blake, desperate and angry and terrified that his baby sister might have beaten him. And Alex. Alex, who'd spent 8 months hunting a ghost, who'd gotten engaged to a man she didn't love for access to information, who was standing in a room full of people realizing they'd been lying to her. Alex was looking at me with an expression I couldn't read. Horror? Recognition? Hope? I need air, I said again. Alex, would you join me? I think we need to talk. The women's restroom at Maison Laurent was absurdly luxurious. Marble counters, gold fixtures, fresh flowers in crystal vases, and the faint scent of jasmine. It felt like a room designed for women to repair their makeup after crying over business deals gone wrong or affairs discovered. I stood at the sink, hands gripping the cool marble, breathing carefully. Through the door, I could hear muffled shouting. Blake's voice, my father's deeper rumble, the higher pitch of my mother trying to smooth things over. They were falling apart in there and I'd barely begun. The door opened. Alex entered, closed it behind her, locked it. We stood in silence for a moment, separated by 10 feet of expensive marble and 3 months of questions. "That document," Alex said finally. "The IP clause. You saw it immediately. I read a lot of contracts. Not freelance coders. They don't read contracts like that. They don't scan 40 pages and find buried clauses in under a minute." Alex moved closer, her heels clicking on the marble. "Who are you, Maya?" "I'm exactly who I said I am." "No, you're not." Alex pulled out her phone, started typing. "I've been hunting MS for 8 months. Do you know what that's like? Chasing someone who doesn't want to be found? I've run background checks, hired investigators, flown across the country following dead leads." "I know." Alex looked up sharply. "You know?" "Your assistant sent 47 emails to our general info address. You called 23 times. You showed up at our office building in Charleston twice, but we don't actually work from there. It's just a registered address." I met her eyes. "Of course I know. I read every email you sent." The color drained from Alex's face. "Our office building. You said our." "I did." "Maya," Alex's voice was barely a whisper. "Are you telling me you work for Kestrel Grid?" I didn't answer. I just watched her, watched the brilliant mind that had made her a partner at 34 start to connect dots she'd been staring at for months. "The notification on your phone," Alex continued, speaking faster now. "It said CEOMS, not from CEOMS or about CEOMS. Just CEOMS, like it was a calendar entry, like it was—" She stopped. "Oh my God." "Alex. Sterling." She pulled up something on her phone. "Your name. You legally changed it 2 years ago. Harrison to Sterling. Sterling, MS. Alex, I need you to listen to me. I looked up the corporate filings last night." Alex's hands were shaking. "I couldn't sleep, so I pulled the incorporation documents. Kestrel Grid is owned by Sterling Holdings LLC. Registered agent, M. Sterling, Charleston. The address matched your zip code. I thought it was coincidence. I thought maybe you were a distant relative, someone using the same name. But it wasn't coincidence." "No," I said quietly. "It wasn't." Alex stared at me, and I watched 8 months of frustration and confusion crystallize into one impossible conclusion. "You're MS," she whispered. "You're the CEO of Kestrel Grid." I didn't confirm it. I didn't deny it. I just held her gaze and let her see the truth in my silence. "Holy shit!" Alex sat down on the small upholstered bench against the wall, like her legs wouldn't hold her anymore. "Holy shit! Blake's sister, the woman they call a failure, the woman they just tried to trick into signing away her IP. You built a $400 million company." $420 million as of last quarter. Alex laughed, a short, sharp sound that might have been hysteria. "I've been engaged to your brother for 3 months. I've been dating him for 8. I told myself I was doing it strategically, that his family had connections in Charleston, that maybe through him I could finally get to you, and you were there. You were there the whole time." "I didn't know you were with Blake," I said. "Not until 3 days ago when he called about this dinner. Would you have come if you'd known?" "Probably not." Alex looked up at me, and I saw something break in her expression. "I don't love him. Blake. I should. I'm engaged to him, but I don't." Her voice cracked. "I said yes because my partners doubted me. Because my father told me I'd never make it in VC, that I was too soft. Because finding you, landing Kestrel Grid, would prove them all wrong. And now you've found me. And now I've found you sitting across from a family trying to steal from you." Alex covered her face with her hands. "God, the things they said to you, the way they treated you, and you just sat there. Why didn't you tell them? Why didn't you just show them your bank statements and watch their faces?" I sat down next to her on the bench. "Because then it would be about the money. They'd want a piece of it, or they'd find some way to take credit for it. We always knew she had potential. We pushed her to succeed. They'd rewrite history and make themselves the heroes. So you stayed invisible. So I stayed invisible. I looked at her. You understand that, don't you? That's why you wanted to find me. Not for the deal, for what it would prove. Alex lowered her hands. Her mascara had smudged slightly. I've been chasing the wrong thing, haven't I? Maybe we both have. May. We sat in silence for a moment, two women who'd built their lives around proving something to people who'd never see them clearly anyway. What happens now? Alex asked finally. Do you go back in there and tell them? Watch Blake's face when he realizes the sister he offered a receptionist job to is the CEO he's been worshipping? Eventually, I said. But not yet. I want to see how far they'll go. I want them to hang themselves. They tried to steal from you, Maya. They were actively hacking your systems. I know, and I have records of all of it. I stood up, held out my hand. But I need you to do something for me first. What? Go back in there and pretend you don't know. Pretend I didn't tell you anything. Can you do that? Alex looked at my extended hand. You're asking me to lie to your brother. I'm asking you to help me give my family the truth they deserve. The full, devastating, undeniable truth. But not yet. Not until they've shown me exactly who they are. Alex took my hand, let me pull her to her feet. This is crazy. Probably. If I do this, if I help you, I want the meeting. After everything explodes, after the dust settles, I want to sit down with MAES, with you, and talk about Redwood Crest investing in Kestrel Grid. Done. Really? Alex, you spent 8 months trying to find me. You figured it out when no one else could. You saw through Blake's lies, and most importantly, I squeezed her hand. You didn't try to use what you discovered to manipulate me. You could have. You could have gone back in there and threatened to expose me unless I gave you what you wanted. But you didn't. That would have been shitty. Yes, but my family has been doing shitty things to me my whole life. I released her hand. You're different. So, yes, after this is over, we'll talk business. But right now, I need you to help me finish what they started. Seh. Alex straightened her dress, checked her reflection in the mirror, wiped away the mascara smudge. What do I need to do? Just follow my lead. And when things get ugly, and they will, don't defend me. Let them think you're on their side. Can you do that? Maya, they tried to steal from you. Your own family. Don't you want someone in your corner? I've been in corners my whole life, I said. I'm used to fighting alone. Alex looked at me for a long moment. You shouldn't have to be. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. A text from Jordan. Security alert. Someone just tried to access your home network. Blocked them, but they're getting aggressive. Where are you? I showed Alex the screen. My family is currently trying to hack me while I'm in the bathroom. Jesus Christ. Yeah. I typed a quick response to Jordan. I'm fine. Keep blocking. Save all logs. I'm going to need them. Ready? I asked Alex. She took a deep breath. This is insane. Completely. Your family is going to implode. That's the idea. And I'm supposed to pretend I don't know you're the person I've been hunting for 8 months. If you can. Alex looked at me, and for the first time since we'd met, she smiled. Really smiled. You know what? Fuck it. Let's burn it down. We walked back into the dining room together. Two women who'd spent the evening being underestimated, ready to show a room full of people exactly how wrong they'd been. When Alex and I walked back into the dining room, the scene had devolved into barely controlled chaos. Blake was pacing, tie loosened, hair disheveled from running his hands through it. My father sat rigid at the head of the table, jaw clenched, nursing what looked like his fourth whiskey. Victoria had her phone out, typing frantically, probably texting her friends about her difficult daughter. They all looked up when we entered. Blake's face was flushed, eyes wild. Finally, he snapped. What the hell were you two doing in there? Having a support group for problem children? Blake, that's enough, Alex said, her voice cold. No, it's not enough. Blake pointed at me. She's hiding something. That text message, she's connected to MS somehow and she won't tell us. That's information that belongs to this family. Information doesn't belong to anyone, Alex said quietly, moving to her seat. But she didn't sit. She stood behind her chair, hands gripping the back. Information is earned. What's that supposed to mean? Blake demanded. Alex looked at me and I saw the question in her eyes. Are you ready for this? I gave her the smallest nod. It means, Alex said, turning to Blake, that I'm going to ask your sister a direct question, and I expect an honest answer. Can you all be quiet long enough for that? The room went silent. Even Victoria stopped typing. Alex's eyes met mine across the table. Maya Sterling, are you the CEO of Kestrel Grid? The question dropped like a bomb into still water. Blake laughed. It was a nervous, disbelieving sound. Oh, come on, Alex, that's ridiculous. Maya, she can barely… Blake, I asked you to be quiet. Alex didn't look at him. She was still looking at me. Maya, yes or no? I thought about all the ways I could answer this. I could hedge, deflect, buy more time. I could make them work for it, drag out their humiliation. But I was tired. So tired of hiding, of performing, of being invisible in a room full of people who should have seen me. Yes, I said. The word was quiet, final, true. Yes, what? Blake asked, still not understanding. Yes, I'm the CEO of Kestrel Grid. I looked directly at him. I'm MS. I have been for 3 years. The silence that followed was absolute. It was the silence of a world reorganizing itself, of belief systems collapsing, of every assumption they'd made about me shattering like glass. Blake was the first to speak. You're lying. I'm not. He looked at Alex. She's lying, right? This is some kind of joke. Maya can't be… she's not… She is, Alex said softly. No. Blake shook his head violently. No, that's impossible. Maya lives in a studio apartment. She drives a piece of shit Honda. She doesn't have money, she doesn't have clients, she doesn't have… A $420 million company? I finished. But I do. My father stood up slowly, hands braced on the table. Prove it. I pulled out my phone, opened my email app, and turned the screen toward him. The inbox was filled with messages, board meeting agendas, acquisition proposals, partnership requests from Fortune 500 companies, each one addressed to M. Sterling, CEO, Kestrel Grid. Those could be fake, Blake stammered. Check the domain, Alex said. She'd moved around the table, was looking at my phone over my father's shoulder. m.sterling@kestrelgrid.com. Real domain, real emails. There's one here from the Singapore Ministry of Trade, another from Deutsche Bank. Those aren't fake. My father's face had gone gray. The LinkedIn post, the one Blake wrote. You. He was writing about you. Yes. And you just sat there. My father's voice was hollow. You sat there and listened to us talk about how brilliant MS was, how we wanted to meet them, how we wanted to… He stopped, realization dawning. The hacking attempts. You knew. Of course I knew. I have a security team monitoring our systems 24/7. Every time Harrison Financial tried to break into my servers, I got a notification. Blake made a wounded sound. But you never said anything. You never… If you're really this CEO, this genius everyone talks about, why didn't you tell us? We're your family. When would I have told you, Blake? During the barbecue where Mr. Henderson asked what I was doing, and Dad said I was finding myself? Or maybe at the Lake Norman Gala that I wasn't invited to because I'd feel out of place? Or tonight, when you offered me a $40,000 a year receptionist job? I was trying to help. You were trying to use me! The words came out louder than I intended. You thought I worked for Kestrel Grid. You thought I was some low-level employee you could exploit for access. That document, I pointed at the leather portfolio still sitting on the table, wasn't about estate planning. It was about stealing my work, about taking what I built and selling it to the highest bidder. That's not… My father started. Don't. My voice was sharp. Don't lie. Not now. You've been trying to hack my systems for a month. When that didn't work, you created a legal document to trick me into giving you access. You brought me here tonight to manipulate me. We're your family, Victoria said, her voice small. We raised you. We deserve… You deserve nothing. The words felt like ice in my mouth. You don't get points for raising the child you chose to have. You don't get equity in a company I built while you were calling me a failure. Blake's face had gone from red to pale. We could have worked together. If you'd just told me. Told you what? That I was building something? I did tell you, Blake. 3 years ago, I called Dad, told him I'd closed my first contract. He immediately wanted 30% equity for his expertise, so I stopped telling you things. That's not fair, my father said, but his voice was weak. Fair? I felt something crack in my chest. You want to talk about fair? I have spent 10 years being invisible to you, 10 years being the cautionary tale, the daughter you apologize for at dinner parties. And the second you thought I might have something valuable, suddenly I mattered. Suddenly, I was worth your attention. Blake took a step toward me. We always cared about you. No, you cared about your idea of me. The version that needed saving. The version that made you look better by comparison. I looked at each of them. I didn't hide because I was ashamed. I hid because I knew what would happen if you found out. And I was right. The moment you suspected I had access to something valuable, you tried to steal it. What did you expect us to do? My father demanded, some of his bluster returning. You're sitting on a gold mine, living like a pauper, and you won't even help your own family. Because you're not my family. The words came out quiet, but they landed like explosions. Family doesn't hack each other's computers. Family doesn't forge legal documents to steal intellectual property. Family doesn't spend a decade making someone feel worthless and then demand a cut when they succeed despite you. Victoria was crying now, mascara running down her face. How can you say that? We're your parents. Blake is your brother. Then act like it. I was shaking now, my hands clenched into fists. Act like you're happy for me instead of trying to figure out how to profit from me. Act like my success is something to celebrate instead of something to exploit. Blake opened his mouth, closed it. For once, he had nothing to say. Alex had been silent through all of this, standing perfectly still. Now she moved. She walked to Blake, and for a moment, I thought she might comfort him. Instead, she held out her left hand. What are you doing? Blake asked. Alex twisted the engagement ring off her finger. It came off easily, like it had never really belonged there. She placed it on the table between the wine glasses and the forgotten dinner plates. I can't marry you, Blake. What? No, Alex, wait. Blake reached for her, but she stepped back. I don't marry liars, Alex said, her voice steady. And I don't do business with people who steal. I didn't steal anything. You tried. That's enough. Alex looked at my father. Harrison Financial is off Redwood Crest's approved vendor list as of now. If any of my colleagues ask why, I'll tell them exactly what happened here tonight. You're ruining us, my father said, his face twisted with rage. Over what? Some loyalty to a girl you just met? No, Alex said quietly. Over basic human decency, something you clearly don't teach in this family. She turned to me. I'll wait for you outside. Alex walked out, her heels clicking on the marble floor, leaving Blake staring at the engagement ring like it was a puzzle he couldn't solve. I pulled out my phone, dialed Jordan, put it on speaker. Jordan, I said when they answered. Execute Protocol Omega. Confirmed. Jordan's voice filled the room, professional and crisp. What's the scope? Full blacklist of Harrison Financial Group. Block all domains, IP addresses, phone numbers. Flag any contact attempts as harassment. And Jordan? Send the evidence we've collected, the hacking attempts, the fraudulent document, all of it, to the FTC, the South Carolina Bar Association, and every VC firm in our network. Maya, wait, my father started. Add a note, I continued, that Harrison Financial attempted to fraudulently obtain proprietary information through familial coercion and forged legal documents. Jesus Christ, Maya! Blake's voice cracked. Anything else? Jordan asked. Yes, contact our attorney. I want a cease and desist sent to... I looked at my father, David Harrison, personally. If he or anyone in his firm attempts to contact Kestrel Grid, our employees, or our partners again, we'll pursue legal action for corporate espionage. Understood. Executing now. I hung up. The silence was deafening. You just destroyed us, my father said. His voice was flat, emotionless. Your own family. No, I said. You destroyed yourselves. I'm just making sure everyone knows it. Victoria let out a sob. How can you be so cruel? We made mistakes, but we're still your parents. We still love you. You love what you thought I could give you. My voice was shaking now. You never loved me. And then, like a dam breaking, I felt it. The cost of all this. The weight of 10 years of hiding, of performing, of being invisible. The weight of watching my family try to steal from me. The weight of being right about them, about how they'd react, about how little I'd ever mattered beyond my utility. My hands started trembling, my vision blurred. I gripped the table for support, but my legs felt weak, like they might give out. Maya? Blake's voice sounded far away. I wanted to be strong. I wanted to walk out of here with my head high, victorious, untouchable. But I wasn't untouchable. I was breaking. I wanted you to be proud of me, I heard myself say. My voice sounded wrong, cracked. Not my company, not my money, just me. Victoria reached for me, we are proud. No. I pulled away, stumbled back. You're not. You're angry because I won and you lost. You're angry because the daughter you wrote off turned out to be worth more than all of you combined. But you're not proud. You don't even know who I am. That's not true, my father said, but there was no conviction in his voice. When's my birthday, Dad? He opened his mouth, closed it. What's my favorite food? What do I do when I'm stressed? What makes me happy? I looked at each of them. You don't know, do you? Because you never asked. You never cared enough to ask. Maya, please. Blake stepped forward, and I saw something in his face I'd never seen before. Genuine distress. Maybe even remorse. We can fix this. If you just... Fix what? The fact that you tried to steal from me? The fact that you've made me feel worthless my entire life? The fact that even now, even knowing what I built, you still can't just be happy for me? The tears came then. I couldn't stop them. 10 years of hurt, of hiding, of hoping they'd see me. All of it poured out in a restaurant I couldn't afford when I was nothing and didn't need now that I was something. I built a $400 million company, I said through tears. And all I wanted was for you to say, well done. That's all. Just acknowledgement that I mattered, that I was enough, just as I was. But you couldn't even give me that. Victoria was sobbing openly now. Blake looked stricken. My father just stood there, his empire crumbling around him, still trying to calculate an angle. I'm done, I said finally. I'm done performing. I'm done hoping. I'm done being the daughter you want me to be instead of the person I am. I grabbed my purse, headed for the door. Maya, wait, Blake called out. I turned back one last time. Don't call me, don't email, don't show up at my apartment. If you try to contact me or my company, my lawyers will handle it. You wanted to treat this like business? Fine. Consider this a permanent separation of assets. You're our daughter, Victoria whispered. Was, I corrected. I was your daughter, but you never wanted her. You wanted a reflection of yourselves, and when I couldn't be that, you decided I was defective. Well, guess what? The defect just fired you. I walked out. The Charleston night was thick with humidity and the scent of jasmine. I made it 3 steps from the restaurant entrance before my legs gave out. I sat down hard on the curb, my expensive dinner still churning in my stomach, tears streaming down my face. I'd won. I'd destroyed them. I'd proven I was everything they said I couldn't be. So why did I feel like I was dying? Maya. Alex sat down beside me on the curb. She didn't say anything else. She just sat there, her designer dress pooling on the dirty sidewalk, and waited. I'm not okay, I said finally. I know. I thought winning would feel better than this. It never does, Alex said quietly. Not when you have to destroy something to get there. We sat in silence for a moment. Two women in expensive clothes sitting on a curb outside a restaurant we could both easily afford, both of us falling apart. I don't love Blake, Alex said suddenly. I need you to know that. I never did. I used him to get to you and that was wrong and I'm sorry. Don't apologize for being strategic. Even strategy has ethics. Alex looked at me. Her mascara was smudged again, her carefully constructed composure completely gone. My father said I'd never make partner, said I was too soft, too emotional, that VC was a man's world and I should accept it. I looked at her. So I spent 5 years proving him wrong, Alex continued. Made partner at 34, youngest woman in Redwood Crest's history. And do you know what he said when I told him? What? He asked if I'd slept with the senior partners to get there. Alex's voice was bitter. 5 years of 80-hour weeks, of perfect deal flow, of everything he said I couldn't do. And he couldn't just be proud. He had to diminish it. I'm sorry. Me too. Alex laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. I think we've both been chasing the same thing. Validation from people who will never give it. Because if they do, if they admit we're brilliant and capable and worthy, then they have to admit they were wrong. And people like that never admit they're wrong. I wiped my eyes. So what do? We stopped chasing them, Alex said. She stood up, held out her hand. We build something that doesn't need their validation, something that succeeds because we made it succeed, not because they finally approved. I took her hand, let her pull me to my feet. Is that your pitch for the Series C investment? Is it working? Maybe. I managed a small smile. Send me a term sheet Monday. Really? Really? You spent 8 months hunting me, figured out what no one else could, and then, I gestured back toward the restaurant. You walked away from your engagement to stand up for someone you barely know. That's character, Alex. That's the kind of partner I want. Alex's eyes welled up. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. I'm a nightmare to work with. Good, Alex said. So am I. My phone buzzed. Jordan. Protocol Omega complete. Harrison Financial blacklisted across all our networks. Also, you're trending on FinTech Twitter. Someone leaked that your MS story breaks in 6 hours. You okay? I showed Alex the text. Well, she said, I guess you're not invisible anymore. No, I agreed. I guess not. Are you ready for that? I thought about it. About 3 years of hiding, of protecting myself, of being the CEO no one could find. About walking into that restaurant as Maya the failure and walking out as MS the success. I don't know, I said honestly, but I'm tired of being afraid. Then let's be brave together. Alex pulled out her phone. I'm calling my assistant. We're doing damage control before this story spins out of your control. You need a statement prepared, a PR team briefed, and a strategy for going public. Alex, you don't have to. Yes, I do. Because I just blew up my engagement over this, and I'll be damned if I'm going to let your family's implosion drag down your company. She was already dialing. Besides, helping MS with her coming out party, that's going to look great in my portfolio. I laughed, actually laughed. It felt good. The valet brought my Honda around. He looked confused to see 2 women in expensive clothes getting into a car with a dented bumper, but handed me the keys without comment. Need a ride? I asked Alex. To where? Wherever you're staying. I assume you flew in? The Grand Bohemian. Blake booked it. Alex made a face. I should probably find a new hotel. Or, I said, you could come back to my apartment. Help me draft that statement. Maybe order pizza and debrief the worst family dinner in history. Alex smiled. That sounds perfect. We drove through Charleston, windows down, letting the humid night air wash over us. My phone kept buzzing. Jordan, my lawyers, board members who'd just heard the news. I ignored all of it. For now, for just this moment, I wanted to breathe. Maya? Alex said as we pulled up to my building. Yeah? For what it's worth, I think your family made the biggest mistake of their lives tonight. What's that? They had a genius in their house for 30 years, and they were so busy looking down they never looked up to see her. I parked the car, killed the engine. Thank you. Don't thank me. Just promise me something. What? Promise me we'll build something great. Not to prove them wrong, just because we can. I extended my hand. Deal. Alex shook it. Then, impulsively, she pulled me into a hug. We sat there in my dented Honda, two women who'd spent the night dismantling their lives, holding onto each other like lifelines. We're going to be okay, Alex whispered. Yeah, I said. We are. The morning sun slanted through floor-to-ceiling windows of Kestrel Grid's new headquarters. We'd moved out of the shadows 3 months ago, after the TechCrunch interview went viral and staying hidden became more trouble than it was worth. I stood in my office, an actual office with a door and everything, watching my team work. 47 people who knew my name, my face, who'd chosen to work for Maya Sterling, not some anonymous ghost. Jordan appeared in the doorway. Ready for the all hands? As ready as I'll ever be. The reporter from Forbes is here early, wants to get some candid shots before the interview. I nodded. Maya Sterling, CEO of Kestrel Grid, was doing a Forbes cover story. The headline, Out of the Shadows, How One Woman Built a Tech Empire in Secret. My phone buzzed. A text from Alex. Board meeting at 2. Don't forget to wear something that photographs well. Alex's investment had closed 2 months ago. $50 million for 8% equity. But more than that, she'd become what I'd never had before. A real friend. Someone who understood the cost of success, who'd paid her own price for it. Another text, this one from a number I didn't recognize. I saw the Forbes article preview. I'm proud of you. Mom. I stared at it for a long moment. Victoria had sent 3 letters in 6 months. I'd returned all of them unopened. Blake had tried to call twice. I'd blocked his number. My father had sent a cease and desist demand through his lawyer, claiming I'd defamed Harrison Financial. My lawyers had responded with our own 20-page document detailing his attempted corporate espionage. The FTC investigation was ongoing. I didn't respond to Victoria's text. Maybe I would eventually. Maybe not. That was the thing about boundaries. You got to decide when and if to lower them. I opened my desk drawer, pulled out an old photograph. The 4 of us at the beach, me 7 years old, Blake 11. We're all smiling. Blake's arm is around my shoulder. We look like a family. I didn't tear it up. I didn't burn it. I just looked at it for a moment, remembering the girl I'd been. The girl who'd wanted so badly to be seen. Then I put it back in the drawer and closed it. Maya? Jordan poked their head back in. Forbes is set up in the conference room. Be right there. I checked my reflection in the window. Maya Sterling stared back at me. CEO, founder, no longer invisible. I grabbed my laptop and headed to the conference room, ready to tell my story. The whole story. The family who'd dismissed me, the company I'd built in secret, the truth I'd finally learned, that some people would never see you, no matter how bright you shined. And that was okay, because I didn't need them to see me anymore. I could see myself. And that, it turned out, was enough.